Well, good morning, everybody. I hope you're all having a good start to your weekend here. But I do notice that temperatures in parts of the Dakotas this morning are pretty chilly. So this is the beginning of this frost event we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks here. So we see that this morning in Bismarck, temperatures down around 19 degrees Fahrenheit at 7:30 a.m. Central Time when I was recording this. And the cold air that's associated with this front that's really pushing pretty far to the south here is going to occupy a lot of the plains in the Midwest, getting over to the Ohio Valley soon. So that front right now, if you just take a look at it, we're expecting by the end of today the northerly winds to advance pretty far to the south, almost all the way to the Gulf Coast. But it'll primarily be confined to much of the Midwest that we're going to see these colder temperatures. This morning's all hazards weather map from the National Weather Service shows that we have freeze warnings out for a broad section here, stretching from the Dakotas all the way through parts of Nebraska, Iowa, clipping western Illinois and Wisconsin. Also northern Missouri. Surrounding it, we do have frost advisories, but this particular shade of color that you see right in through here is the National Weather Service's color for a freeze risk. So this is where we're talking about those temps getting down below 28 Fahrenheit and staying there for a while. So we got some pretty chilly air that's on its way. Just to show you what that the temperatures look like here, let's blow that up. There we are. So this was Friday morning lows. Let's go forward and show you Saturday. So you see this white contour, that's where I kind of placed the 32 degree Fahrenheit contour. So we do see a lot of areas in through here hitting that frost threshold and possibly dipping down there into that freeze threshold. By Sunday morning, it's primarily going to be confined to parts of the Ohio River Valley pushing up against the Appalachian Mountains. And then that cooler air keeps moving east on Monday. Now, during this whole time, a larger ridge stays in place across the west. We see temperatures here anywhere between 10 and upwards of 20 degrees warmer than normal, and we see a rebound in temperatures. Now, we're looking at minimum temperatures here, but you can imagine the max temps also warming up back in the midsection of the country as we get out there into early next week. I am watching another shot at some colder air coming in through the Canadian Prairie, the northern plains and Midwest, midweek next week with the next system that's going to roll through here. And in fact, why don't we just go take a look at that on the high temperature graphic as well. Here's today's high temperatures. We're then Saturday and Sunday. Look at the heat in the Northwest. Here's that warm up we talked about for Monday and Tuesday. But then that next shot at colder air comes in right here. There it is, Wednesday into Thursday of next week. And that's been a pretty robust signal here at the end of the week. What's causing it right now is this cutoff low. So you see this right here, the flow is going around this. This is keeping a larger ridge over the west, and therefore systems roll over the top of that ridge, like the one you see next Tuesday coming here through the Canadian Prairie, and they just keep diving and anchoring themselves around troughs of low pressure between the Great Lakes and the Hudson Bay. Those push into New England. And the interesting thing about this particular setup in the flow, so we just kind of map this out a week from now, doing something like this, is as we've been talking about, northwest flow in fall and winter and spring, this tends to deliver a lot of upper level convergence in the atmosphere. And the reason for that, by the way, is that the flow tends to go fast over ridges and slower through the base of troughs. So you can imagine that the atmosphere has to slow down here. It piles up and then sends a lot of that motion down. So you get high pressure that develops. But that's also a signal for drier weather in addition to these shots at cooler weather. Let's go take a look at the precipitation forecast. So to start us off, there's the high pressure that moves in by this evening, really occupying a big section of the country here. Got a pair of lows that are trying to curl around a deeper trough in the upper level flow that's here over eastern Canada. Now, but the only place that I see getting, decent chances of rain, maybe a half inch to upwards of an inch and a half of rainfall over the weekend, is kind of curling through Mexico, hitting parts of Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas, right in through here. All right. Again, we've talked about it this week. There's just some frontogenesis here. The atmosphere's forcing the air to rise, and we just see better chances of rainfall. But outside of that, chances of rain are really limited. So I've played you all the way through Monday evening now. Let's go out there into Tuesday. It will be next Tuesday evening that system comes right through here with that deeper trough. And you see the kink in the isobars? I'm drawing a line through it because that will tell you exactly where the cold front will be. So it's there on Tuesday. Interestingly enough, building some high pressure here actually helps return some moisture, which means when this front sweeps through midweek next week, it'll likely be the first, more disruptive harvest event to parts of the central corn belt. How much rain's coming through right now? It doesn't look like much, But you look out there to next Tuesday through Wednesday and getting into Thursday. This is where we expect the front to be by Thursday morning, pressing some, better chances for rainfall into the eastern Corn Belt, getting into New England, and then down here through parts of the Appalachian Mountains into the southeast. So that's the next decent precipitation event. But as you can imagine, we're going to be bringing in some colder air again behind this at the end of next week. But you kind of stitch all that together and just think about it. It's not that much rainfall. Playing through the weekend into early next week, this is the only area we see across the country with substantial chances for rain. And then we just watch that front come through next Wednesday, Thursday. It'll slow harvest down, but not stop. So over the next 15 days, we see that for the most part, the pattern stays drier, with the exception of this section of New Mexico and Texas. And that will add to this map, which we've seen several times this week. This is now just the last 2 weeks of precipitation anomalies. Of course, much of this is dominated by Ian, but outside of that, very dry across a broad sector here in the United States and the West. From there, I do want to show you the outlook for day 5 through 10, which is on the left, and day 10 through 15 on the right for temperatures. You can just continue to see how the flow wants to favor that. So that's temperatures 10 to 15, maybe 20 degrees warmer than normal across the west, and just shots at cooler air that just run through and really occupy much of the eastern half of the country. We do have a tropical system we're watching. It's tropical depression number 13, and TD13 is likely to become a hurricane as it approaches this part of Central America and Mexico. Now, the thing I'll be watching for is if the remnants of this get into the Bay of Campeche. And if that happens, we'll have to have a discussion next week about where it could go and could it potentially strengthen into the Gulf, which still has quite warm water. But other than that, today, just get a good chance to read the report. I kind of continued the discussion we had in the long-range forecast last night, which talks about this October 20th to November 20th pattern shift we're talking about. Some increased momentum in the Pacific Jet while the La Nina continues to strengthen. And finally, just a quick discussion in today's report following up again on last night's in-depth video about how we expect planting progress to continue to be above normal across much of Brazil's northern growing areas, especially Mato Grosso, while drought risk continues to be a problem south, especially in parts of Argentina. So I hope you all have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you again on Monday. Thanks.